Hello everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Welcome back to the One Man Low Council. Welcome to episode 169 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, and happy Tuesday to everyone. I hope everyone's week, no matter where you are in the world, whether it's morning, whether it's evening, is going swimmingly thus far, especially with all of the chaos, with all of the madness continuing to go on in our world. And as you can tell from the title, this evening is indeed Open Forum / box office, because I did want to start off with a quick little sidebar blurb about the box office. I made my video today talking about how I honestly think that the end of the box office breakdowns that I was always very fond of doing, both on my main channel and also on the Geeks and Gamers channel, have officially come to an end with the most recent news of Tenet being delayed indefinitely, and with the studios now playing around with all the different ideas and all the different ways to try and get their movies out there. We already knew that this was a very likely thing to happen. We already knew that this was something that was inevitable, right? I was saying for a long time, it might be 10 years, and then after everything, I was like, maybe 5 years, and now it's like maybe 2 to 3 years, and maybe even less than that, for the box office to become completely irrelevant. But the big thing I can say, though, is based on all of the stuff, and especially in the article that I read today, when you look and see and think about the methodology that I tend to use to do my box office breakdowns, to try and predict, to try and get a range as to what a film makes versus how much it costs, to try and predict what I think a film has the potential to make based off the first 2 weeks, and also being able to determine whether a film is a flop or a hit. Pretty much all of that stuff is now going to be out the window, because we're going to be living in a post-COVID world when the movie theaters finally reopen and brand new films finally get theatrical releases as well, which obviously makes me very sad and makes me very upset, because it's something that I have a genuine interest in. I love movies, I love going to the movie theater, and also I love breaking down the numbers, because it's one of the things that not a lot of people were doing on the internet, not a lot of people were doing on YouTube specifically. And it's also kind of that thing where I have a lot of, special feelings towards it, because it's what got me my foot in the door, really, with Geeks and Gamers, and got me onto the team, was because I was doing something that really wasn't being done by a whole lot of people, at least the way that I was doing it. And so it makes me sad. It makes me sad that we've probably seen one of the last box office breakdowns on the main channel on Geeks and Gamers, because even when we do start getting some box office numbers, and we already are, Korea is seeing a huge a huge amount of money coming in from their movies, specifically the sequel to Train to Busan, which was the Korean film I just sent so much praise and love towards a couple of videos ago in my review. If you've not seen Train to Busan from 2016, it's amazing. Yeah, it's a zombie movie, but it's a fantastic film in addition to that. The sequel for that, Peninsula, just came out in Korea and has been making millions of dollars. And even with all that, though, even with those numbers coming in, it's impossible. It really is honestly impossible to be able to make any predictions whatsoever as far as what anything is going to be like in the next few months. So just wanted to get that out of the way. And of course, if y'all want to talk about the box office stuff tonight, y'all absolutely can. But it is open forum, which means, we could be talking about movies, we could be talking about television, wrestling. I know that some people know I'm a wrestling fan, or kind of this in malaise wrestling fan. Like, I'm in this in-between space where I was watching just AEW for a while, but then I kind of fell away from AEW because there's just been a lot of stuff going on here at home. Obviously, too, the school year is starting to get back into gear, because we're having meetings already, and we have our own training next week. Keep this in mind. Next week is basically our faculty orientation. The week after, so in less than 2 weeks, we have orientation for our students, with our first day of school being that Friday. So basically, we're 2 weeks away at this point from the start of school, which is insane. Summer has absolutely flown by. I don't want summer, and I'm not ready for summer to end, especially since this school year is going to be a total crapshoot because of the masks, and because of all the protocols and the 6-foot learning, and because the kids are obviously going to be struggling. We as adults are going to be struggling. It's going to be the struggle fest which I guess means we'll be all in good company and we'll all be able to be there, hopefully, to support each other. But it's just going to get crazy. But just one word about the open forum. Yes, it's open forum. However, there are certain comments and certain questions that I will not be able to address or answer just for the sake of simple decency. Again, I am a teacher. I am a devout Catholic, and so therefore there are certain things that I, one, can't answer, and two, wouldn't want to answer even if I was allowed to. All right, so just laying the ground rules there. Try and keep things within the realm of movies, TV, pop culture, that kind of stuff. And pretty much anything else is on the table. Let's start off with my D-Live fam, because we got 11 people watching over there right now. Hope everyone is doing swimmingly over there. Let's see. We got Mr. Peabody over there. We got Alexander over there as well. We got Captain K-Man, Captain Dean Heiss as well. Alexander says, my province in Canada mandated masks in buildings. I'm still enraged. Yeah, I mean, that's what's pretty much going on across the world right now, especially here in North America. More and more states and cities are starting to put those mandates in place. Again, as a school teacher, we are mandating that all students and teachers will have to wear masks as they walk in, out, and around the building, including in the classroom. We're hoping and praying we can get to the point where we'll be allowed to maybe take them off in the classroom or something to that effect. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very odd being in front of a class of students where the max number is going to be around 14. And again, that's because they're trying to limit the classroom size, which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because it's good because it's more manageable. It's less overall bodies to have to control and maintain and keep an eye on. But also, too, what I've noticed in my teaching career is that normally when you have classes of that size, it's usually a little harder to get them to actually start talking, right? Because it's less chance of you having a lot of talkative people all in the same class. And also because there's less people, it means there's less chance of just this sense of like, oh, getting excited and, you know, feeding off of other people. So again, it's got its positives, it's got its negatives. So it's going to be interesting to say the least, whatever things and however things go. But yeah, man, the mask mandates, they're going to be going pretty much everywhere, at least for the foreseeable future at this point. Captain K, man, thank you again for being here. Captain Darkstar 57 is celebrating a 12-month sub streak. So Captain Darkstar 57, thank you, man, for being a sub on D-Live. You can indeed sub on D-Live, by the way. Again, you pay in cryptocurrency, which is kind of fun when you think about it. And thank you for being one of my subs for 12 months, man. I appreciate that very much. Alexander says, your students should meet Trump to ask him, why did you let them mess up our education and upbringing butthole? Well, they could say that. I doubt it would get them very far. And I think that because the issue is really very, very complicated, right? We try and oftentimes, I think, oversimplify it as to say, it's this person's fault or it's this party's fault. When it comes to education, it's been something that's happened over a long period of time, and many, many people have been involved. But also a couple things have been happening here. We see Mr. Habs. Thank you for following me on Twitch earlier yesterday. 2 minutes ago, 16-bit mascot. Thank you for the 350. Thank you for the $3.50. $3.50 super chat. Hail Odin, appreciate your work. Keep it real. 16-bit mascot. Thank you so very much, man. I appreciate that. And Freddie Mac 123. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. Hopefully y'all enjoyed those gifts. Those are my puppies. They are amazing. They are in the process of sleeping. They were chewing on their bones, but now they're sleeping. We'll do some puppy cam maybe in a little while. But let's see who's over on YouTube right now. Someone named Jason was over there. Jason, I just want to say, man, based on what you were putting there, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. I've never seen your name in the chat, so I don't know why you're speaking to me like you know me. But yeah. Anyway, Just Joe 47, what's going on, man? Glad to see you. Tina B, thank you for being here. Hopefully you have your coffee or at least a nice beverage. I'm used to seeing you in the morning, so a nice beverage, a nice meal to be able to enjoy on this open forum. Orange Hat Reviews, who's a member on the channel, hail to you. Bruce, who's a member as well, hail to you as well. Glad to see my peeps here. Saita Neon says, welcome Asgard to Odin's insert new hobby here blog. Yeah, pretty much. It's like, okay, the movies aren't really coming out. There's some movies I can talk about, right? I can do old school reviews and things like that. that, only, maybe 5 people will actually want to watch, because YouTube doesn't actually notify people when videos go live. Even Anna, that Star Wars girl, right, who's got hundreds of thousands of subs, only 11% of the people that watch her videos are actually subscribed. Yeah. What's going on with that? What's going on with that, YouTube? Seems like you have a flawed system there. I could do that. And again, I have been, right? I have been continuing on to be able to cover a wide variety of things. I have a huge stack actually next to me of movies that I've been sent. As you all know, I've got a really cool relationship with a group called MVD Visual, and they send me a lot of Arrow Video releases, which is a kind of Criterion Collection type film company where they get the rights essentially to older films and do first-time Blu-ray transfers of those movies. And so they'll do a 2K scan of a 35mm print or a 4K scan of a 35mm print. Actually, now, I think this year, they started releasing their first 4K titles with those scans as well, which is kind of exciting. But their pick of movies tend to be more on the obscure side. So they have every now and then movies like, for example, you have RoboCop, which is a lot more of a well-known name. I think 16 Candles was another one they sent me, American Werewolf in London, things like that. So they have names and titles of movies that you've heard of, but then they also have a bunch of other things that you never would have heard of before. And so I have a stack of those. And so one of the videos I do over the next week or so is just going to be an update on the movies that they've sent me. It's impossible for me with the amount that they've sent me. I have a giant box full of them to be able to watch all of them just because of not having enough time in the day. But I do want to at least talk about them and give you the synopsis and say, hey, if this is something that interests you, or maybe you knew about this film and didn't know that it was getting a Blu-ray release or a physical media release. And so, it might be something that you want to look into. So again, that's the reason why I like to do those videos still. And once again, shout out to MVD Visual and to Arrow for allowing me to receive those movies to be able to talk about. And again, I plan on doing that very, very soon. But anyway, thank you very much for the Super Chat, 16-Bit Mascot, and also Slicer Neons for being here, and all the members. Zachariah315, what is going on? Glad to see you here. Griffin Turbo is in the chat. How is it going? Hypernex13 is here as well. Hail to you. Cobra Viper 999. How is it going? Mr. Peabody, thank you very much for being here. A member and also one of the hammers who will drop that hammer on anyone that tries to play any nonsense in the chats, as some people tend to do. Forever Sci-Fi, who is a member on the channel, says hail. Hail to you, Forever Sci-Fi. Dean Heiss, who is also a member on the channel, thank you very much for being here, says hail to everyone as well. Grandmaster Yoda, what's going on, good sir? Feels like it's been a while since I've seen you in the chat. He has tagged me, and remember, if you have a comment or question on YouTube, please type Odin question, all one word, all together. ODINQUESTION. If you never know how to spell it, it always comes down here in the little ticker. By the way, here's a reminder, I'm usually 20 minutes behind in the chat. So if you post something and you're wondering why I'm not reading it, it's because I read comments and questions from pretty much everyone. It's very rarely that I actually purposefully skip anything. The only times I do purposely skip anything is if it's rude or inappropriate or, something to that effect, or I'm towards the end of the stream and I'm running out of time and it's from someone that constantly posts and has gotten a lot of questions, etc., read during the stream. But yeah, it's a pretty easy way. I'm one of those persons where you don't have to just super chat or donate, though I do appreciate it. However, if you do want to financially support the channel, I recommend and really ask that you try and go through Streamlabs instead. There's a link to the Streamlabs in the description of the video. The reason why is because YouTube takes 30% of every single super chat. 30%! And then the YouTuber has to wait until the end of the next month in order to get any of that in the first place, and it just becomes a whole crapshoot. So if you wanted to be able to lessen that time and also only have a processing fee taken out of your donation instead, which means more of it goes to the person you're trying to support, Streamlabs is a great way to go about doing it. Speaking of which, the goal update, we got about 40 hours left on the TV preservation upgrades to the channel project that was launched. We're well over it. Again, we have $1,089 that's been raised so far, so 108% of the goal has indeed been reached. As you all know, for those that haven't been here for a while, I've been able to buy a server. It's a Synology NAS. Was able to get 2 10-terabyte hard drives as well. And have started the process already of backing up movies and TV shows that are either already out of print because of problems in the show itself, in the modern culture, shows that are potentially going to be put on that list. For example, I bought, of course, the entire collection of Dukes of Hazzard. That show's trying to get canceled and be put out of print as well. And also a bunch of other movies and stuff like that. If you want to follow that preservation project and find out how to support either through, again, monetary donation or even just through recommending stuff, check out my website, ombreviews.home.blog. You can find a link to that also in the description, and you'll find a title that it says Film TV Preservation, and it'll give you all that information. It'll also give you a list of the movies that I've backed up so far, TV shows that I've backed up, and also things that I've ordered and are on the way. Today, I actually was able to back up seasons 3 and 4 of the TV show Dinosaurs, because someone did make a good point in their recommendation they submitted about how there's a lot of themes in there that might get censored since it is coming to Disney Plus later this year. And so I figured, oh, okay, well, that's actually probably a good idea. And also, I love the show Dinosaurs. Remember, very fond memories of that when I was a kid. And so I was able to do that. And also Stripes. Bill Murray's film Stripes came in today. Didn't realize the amazing cast that was in it. I've never seen Stripes before in my life, but someone recommended it. And I actually ended up getting the extended edition instead because I assumed it was going to have everything possible that could be in there. Also, though, if you do super chat or donate, it means that you don't have to wait 20 minutes or wait very much long at all, because it's going to pop right up and I'll be able to read it more quickly. So anyway, AJ Borkar, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Says, didn't realize how much I missed movies until I heard good conversation about them. Thanks. Hey, AJ, no problem at all. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so very much for supporting the stream and for the super chat, man. It really does mean a lot. Yeah, I mean, from someone that has loved movies for a long time, again, I've mentioned this story several times, for anyone that's been around the channel for a while. My love of film really came when I was in middle school. I ended up finding myself at the movie theater almost every weekend. By high school, it was every weekend that I was there, and I would go and see movies sometimes 1, 2, 3 times, and sometimes it wasn't even because it was a good movie. Sometimes it was just because I wanted to be able to go in and spend 2 hours escaping from the world around me, go there with my friends, see their reactions. And so I would sometimes see good movies multiple times. Sometimes I'd see really bad ones multiple times. And sometimes movies became guilty pleasures because I got to see them so often. And what was great about all of those experiences, though, were the moments after the movie. I mean, there's something magical about the movie theater, and that's why I always just am so sad whenever I think about how movie theaters are in that pathway of dying, right? Because there's something about being able to sit in the theater as the credits roll, look over to your friends, and just start talking and just start saying, what do you think about this? Or what did this mean? Or, hey, how far can we dive into this? Are there flaws with it? Do we love it? Why do we love it? Again, there's so many different layers there. And then even better when those conversations get to the end of those credits and then it moves out to the parking lot. And then you're out in the parking lot talking for an hour, 2 hours, getting bitten by bugs. Because for me, I lived in southern Louisiana, and so we were getting bitten alive in the summer, and it was awful. But we still did it because we like talking to each other about movies and about the experience. There's just something that VOD can't do. There's just certain things that no matter how hard anyone tries in any of these movie studios, they're never going to be able to replicate for video on demand, and no matter what kind of system you have at home as well. It's very hard, unless you're very rich, to be able to replicate the movie-going experience with the big giant screen and the big sound and all that stuff. Plus, of course, watching a film with a group of strangers can sometimes, again, obviously there's exceptions, be this just kind of cathartic experience, right? You're sharing an experience with a group of people that will only ever experience that film at that moment in time once. It'll never be the same. A great example, I guess, kind of to finish up on that point would be, if anyone's ever gone to cult classic films, for me, one of my favorites is a film called The Room with Tommy Wiseau. I went to see that film so many times at midnight, when you had the plastic spoons, you threw them at the screens, you shouted out lines, etc. Very similar to Rocky Horror Picture Show. Anyone that's done that one before, kind of what I'm talking about. But I can tell you all the times I did it, it was never the same. Even though the lines were the same most of the time, there was always something different. There was always one extra person there that added something to it, added a little extra flavor to it, and it was magical. And again, that's just something that can't be replicated with anything VOD, anything at home. So I'm very sad to see the current state of movie theaters. I'm very sad to see where we're going with that. And that's why I'm continuing to talk about that. That's why a lot of the videos I've made the last month or two have been mostly focused on AMC theaters, on the Grand, or not the Grand, on Regal cinemas, and on just the movie theater business in general. I really do hope they're able to survive to at least some extent, to last a little bit longer. I'm not quite yet. I would like to be able to have, to know and to choose what is that last midnight movie, or what is that last opening night movie that I get to go see with my friends while I still can. There's something special about it. Anyway, Grandmaster Yoda over on YouTube says, I do believe theater will die out, but not in a split second. It's many super budget movies like Avatar 2 on $450 million. That is way too pricey to go to VOD. No, I don't think they're going to die completely outright either, Grandmaster Yoda. There's some people that have put that as comments on my videos where they're like, oh, well, it's VOD. But here's the problem. They don't understand the business, right? And that's why it's like, as someone that follows the box office, knows the box office numbers, and also knows that the studios rely heavily on those box office numbers. That is where they make that huge chunk of moolah, right? If they're going to be successful, they're going to make that money at the movie theater. They're going to make that money in a theatrical release. And the mindset that a lot of people are trying to have is, well, they can just release it online and they can make a lot of money there too. Once again, though, the problem is that not everyone that can go to a theater has access to all of these various subscription services that now exist, right? Not all of them can afford to have HBO Max and Disney Plus and Peacock, the paid edition, for those who are going that route, or Amazon Prime, right? Or Netflix. Not everyone can afford to have every single one of them. Normally, they have to pick one or the other, or maybe one comes for free for a year, right? So there's limitations with that. When it comes to the movies, they get to pick and choose which ones they want to go see. And normally, it's a lot cheaper to go see it by themselves, right? And it just makes more sense. And they get to go with their friends. And again, there's just something more about the experience overall that just can't be replicated. So yeah, the theaters are not going anywhere for a little while, Grandmaster Yoda. As I said, 2 to 3 years minimum, 5 years max. And what I mean by that is the theaters being an important part of the money-making machine that is Hollywood, right? That the theaters at this point in time obviously are still the most crucial point for any studio to make any money whatsoever as far as profits go on the movie itself. That is still going to exist, though to a lesser degree, probably for another 2 to 5 years. But once that time passes, what's going to happen over that time, and it's been accelerated tremendously because of COVID, is that the studios are now looking into investing into their streaming services, into video on demand services. How can they make the most money off of that? As I said, I think the end result is going to be this. They're going to have their own service, every major studio. They're then going to make you pay for that service, and then they're going to put new releases, the ones that cost over $100 million, for example, onto those services. However, they're going to charge you a premium for it. So not only do you have to be a member on their service, paying a monthly fee, you also then have to pay modest $10, right? A movie ticket price on an average for most people in the country. $10, and you get to access the film for 24 hours, pause, etc., right? That, I think, is going to be what the future is. Still a little ways out from that being the full expression of all studios, right? Not all studios really have a presence yet in the streaming wars, but that's what's going to happen. And yeah, I think, again, as you said, Grandmaster Yoda, there's still movies right now that have already been paid for or are in the process of being paid for that they're just going to have to get a major release in theaters. But be on the lookout for budgets this point going forward. For any major release that gets announced and the process gets started, pre-production starting, etc., start to look to see what the production budgets do, because something tells me that they're going to start dropping or they're going to start evening out. And we're not going to see another Avatar 2 or an Avatar 3 as far as budgets are concerned. So anyway, all right, the YouTube chat has jumped on me once again. So let's go ahead and see where things were left off. So it looks like some comments may have been skipped, but it's 7:02 in the chat, 7:24 where I am. So as I said, I'm about 20 minutes behind. So please don't double post. That would be great. That would be great. Captain High says, what will these governors do when after a few weeks after mandated masks, the numbers aren't going down? They'll just come up with some other excuse, right? Because here's the thing. I come from a family where, you know, my dad is a doctor, right? So I do have medical family members. And he has made it very clear that masks are indeed effective. That a lot of the basic things being recommended by the CDC are actually logical and based in science and research. The 6-foot distance, the mask wearing, things like that. So these are things that are true. They do have an impact. The problem, though, is that governors, right, especially certain governors, are trying to use things like the mask mandate, trying to use things like the 6-foot distance forcing, etc., as two things. One, a power grab. They're doing it just because they want to be able to show they have power, that they have authority, and that they can have an impact on the lives of everyone in their area, right? So it's a power grab for one, obviously, I would say in certain cases. But the second thing, too, is it comes from their misunderstanding, because they think, oh, I'm going to mandate masks, and if the numbers go down, oh, I come out looking great. And if they don't go down, well then, hey, I mandated masks. The only way that it possibly didn't work was when people were not following the mandates and were protesting, right? Not protesting BLM style, protesting against masks, mandates, etc. The problem with that is it ignores something very important. Just because you wear a mask doesn't mean that you're protected. Just because you do 6-foot distancing by itself doesn't mean that it's 100% effective. And here's why. If you wear a mask, 6-foot distance, but then you don't wash your hands like you probably should, you hang out in crowds full of people, you shake hands maybe still, right? You don't change anything about your own personal hygiene, with the only difference being, oh, I wear a mask. The mask is not just some shield that's going to protect you from every little thing that happens. It's not. And so that's the reason why I have a problem more so with the mandate, right? So obviously I hate it because I don't like any government forcing its citizens to do anything that is not laid out in the Constitution. Again, that's just kind of my own mindset there. But also, they're forcing this issue and they're making these mandates not because they care. It's not because they want to actually stop the virus. It's because they want to be able to execute their power. And it's because they think that, oh, this is going to be my quick fix where I don't have to actually do any work. I don't actually have to educate anyone or teach anyone or get a doctor to be next to me trying to explain why these things are important. Again, basically it becomes politicized, right? And that's why I said there's extreme people on both sides of this issue. If you're a person and you say this is all a lie, this is all a hoax, I'm sorry, I have no time for you. I'm just going to be honest. I have no time for you because that is complete nonsense, complete BS. All right? On the flip side of that, if you're on the other extreme and you're like, oh my gosh, you're going to die. Everyone's going to die and this is terrible. I also don't have time for you because both sides, both extremes are outside of logic, not using reason, not using their brains, and it's impossible to have a conversation or a debate or just a general discussion with someone that's not willing to use their brain. So that's why I like being in the middle, where it's like, oh no, this is a real virus. All right. This is a virus that is very easily spread, and that's the reason why it's a problem. It's not necessarily because of what it does. The bigger issue is because it spreads so easily, right? It's able to spread so quickly, unlike other things that we've had to deal with in the past, which is why certain measures were tried to being implemented very early on, which is why hopefully we're able to develop a vaccine and be able to find ways to fight against the symptoms and, be able to help the people that are being impacted by this. Like, I actually had someone the other day who told me, well, actually, no one under the age of 80 has died. It's not deadly to anyone under the age of 80. And I'm like, you do realize that there are numbers of people that have died from this who were healthy, who were under the age of 80, right? And because he was in his own bizarro land obsession with just, conspiracy theory nonsense, he didn't want to hear any of it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm done. I washed my hands, all right? I have no time for that kind of nonsense. Here I am, though, again, in the middle, right? There is a virus, right? Hopefully we find out the origins, right? There's a lot of speculation, but hopefully we're able to prove without a shadow of a doubt where the actual origins are, find them in the act, find the evidence, and get those suckers, looking at you, China, actually do something about it. But also, too, we're able to move forward as a society, hopefully understanding how a virus that was more contagious than anything else that really presently exists was able to infiltrate our society as quickly as it was. Right? There's going to be things that we're going to have to, by choice, change in the way that we live our lives, right? Being more hygienic, that's a good thing. Being more aware of the things that we touch and how it impacts those around us and ourselves, right? That's an important thing I think that we should understand. So again, that's not an extreme position. That's not being on one side or the other. It's just saying, no, there's certain things that I think are important for us to talk about, and there's other things that aren't. Anyway. Riff Magos, 2 minutes ago, thank you for the $5 donation via Streamlabs. Thank you for donating directly via Streamlabs. Says, Hail Odin, the only mask I wear is the one I project in public. Hashtag sarcastic for life. Yes, indeed. And there's the other thing too, right? Is that people think if someone doesn't wear a mask, it means that they're killing people. It's like, no. Again, no. All that means is that they are, again, they are putting themselves in a position where they could, if they are sick, have a higher chance of getting someone else sick or picking something up themselves, right? Anyone that's equating if you don't wear a mask, you're a murderer, that's nonsense, right? That's extremism, right? And again, I have no patience for extremism, right? Now, if I was given the option to wear a mask, if my wife said, hey, by the way, right, we have a little one on the way, I'm more immunocompromised, I would like you to wear a mask just for safety, right? Just to be on the safe side. I'd be like, yeah, okay, no problem, right? Because again, that makes sense. We're making a personal choice. We obviously have a stake in the game there. We obviously want to try and make sure that the little one's protected, that my wife is protected. And this goes for any family, right? That where you have a member that's compromised, right? You're making those decisions for yourselves to do that. Hey, I think that makes complete and total sense. My problem, of course, again, as I said, always comes in when it's, oh, I'm being forced to do this. Very different. Let's see. Anyway, the guy under Odin's desk, thank you for the $1.08 donation. Let's see. He says, somebody send me body armor. He kicks kicking me. He kicks kicking me. That makes sense. But it's probably because you deserve it. All right. Anyway, let's see. Trying to push back up on D-Live for a second. Peabody says, we don't have bugs in Australia. They are called airborne assault units. Well, that's fun. Captain Heiss, just saw a post about latest digital code giveaway. One question. What is Alita 3? Did I miss something? It just means it's the third. I have multiple codes of Alita. That's all that means. Captain Mr. Roy, thank you for the diamond donation. I very much appreciate that. Let's see. Daniel Thorne had a comment. I don't see how the social distancing helps. If one coughs or sneezes, that air goes much farther than 6 feet. Well, again, it's basically the mindset of it puts more layers of protection. Again, nothing is going to save you 100%, right? Nothing is going to be 100% unless you are in a vacuum, right? A sanitized vacuum, and you never leave. Will you ever be completely protected from any type of ailment, illness, virus, bacteria, etc., right? And again, we can't live that way. It's impossible on a multitude of a multitude of levels, right? But the 6 foot distancing thing comes in, and it does make sense from a more logical position, because if one does that, especially in inside environments when you're sitting down, it just means that there's a less of a chance of, let's say, you sneeze into your arm the way you're supposed to, right? And therefore all the moisture goes into your arm and not into the air. Let's say maybe a little bit of it comes out. Well, then boom, it goes down towards the ground, less likely to be able to somehow waft and travel 6 feet, right? You're right. Is there a way for someone to get sick even at 6 feet? Absolutely. Is there a less chance of someone getting sick with that implemented? Yes. And that's, again, basically the mindset behind the mask and also 6 feet distancing is to try and limit as much as possible, as much as is realistically possible, the chance of spread, right? And so these are just all different tools and layers to try and provide the most protection possible. Captain Will Gentry says, someone clearly got the fact that most deaths are in over 80s group confused with everyone dying being over 80, hashtag moron alert. Exactly. They got the fact that people that are over 80 make up the largest portion of those that have died. And also, of course, if you're elderly, you're at higher risk. They must have forgotten also that anyone that has a pre-existing condition, like, for example, someone that already has a very bad immune system because that's just how they were born, has a very high chance of catching it. Because also remember this much, all that it really does, like any virus, like with any cold or flu, is that it continues to lower the immune system even more and makes you more susceptible to infection. Now, there's also a connection being made here that it's affecting the lungs more so than anything else, but this is something that we still, again, need a lot of research in order to figure out the long-term ramifications of those that it does impact. But remember also, most people that have it are asymptomatic based on the research that we're getting in right now. The death rate for it is well under 1%, again, well under 1% with the numbers that are coming in. But once again, we can't be on that extreme either, right? Of, oh, then we should do nothing. Because there are still people that are going to be impacted. You know, even though you hear 1% or less than 1%, you know what I hear? Oh, that's still thousands of people. That's still multiple thousands of people. All right? And I don't think that those multiple thousands of people should just be left out there and be left to just die. That's just not a position I hold to. That's not a moral standard or moral code that I hold to. So if there's something that I can do voluntarily to limit that, not obviously we can't completely eliminate it, but to limit it as much as possible, I would be willing to do that voluntarily. As I said, my big issue always comes in, I don't think the masks in and of themselves are wrong or evil. I absolutely understand that there is a real benefit to it. It does make sense logically and medically, but let's also keep it in context. It's not a 100% cure. It's not a 100% way of protecting yourself or others, right? It's simply an extra barrier to try and reduce the chance of exposure and the chance of spreading. But again, the problem is in the mandating, right? Is in the governors forcing people to do these various things and not giving the context. Right? It's bad to force people to do anything regardless, right? I'm always against that in general when government's trying to force people to do something. But what's worse is that there's no context given. There's no explanation given, right? It's simply I'm the governor and I've decided this, and usually the decisions make no sense. Oh, you can stay open, but you can't stay open, even though they are basically the same thing. It's ridiculous, right? It's the politics that drives me crazy, more so than anything else. Daniel Thorne over on DLAP says, why no lockdown for tuberculosis? Over 8 million cases a year and 1.5 million deaths. Again, fair point. I would only say, I guess, the mindset there would be this is something brand new, right? This is something brand new. And I guess it would be a percentage instance and not necessarily a raw numbers thing. Again, I don't really know a lot of the numbers on tuberculosis. And also, I imagine it probably has a lot to do with the fact that since this is unknown and also highly contagious, that's probably why people are taking this one a little bit further than what they probably should. Daniel Thorne says, the ultimate vacuum is a black hole and nobody can live in that. No one can. You're right about that. And also, you're right, it is Taco Tuesday and we did have tacos. So there you go. Cam Will Gentry says, it's like putting a lock on your door. It doesn't guarantee your safety, but it's an extra protection layer. Exactly, right? That's exactly what it is. It does protect you. However, is it 100% effective? No. Will Gentry, you put it just right, man. A mask, 6 foot distancing, both of those things are like putting a lock or a chain on your door, right? It makes it a lot harder for things to get in, but can things still get in? Yes, they can. But again, if you reduce the risk, automatically, by logic, it means you are going to, by default, reduce the exposure. But once again, if people are only wearing a mask and only doing the distancing, but then they're not washing their hands and they're still rubbing their face and still touching things, well, then obviously anything they do is counterintuitive, because it's essentially like them saying, oh, I have a lock and I have this chain, but they're not on, right? That's what basically is going on there, which means that, yeah, there might be a door, but that door can easily be swung open. Anyway, I went on for a long while there, but I think it's important. Again, this is open forum, so if this is not what you want to hear tonight, I don't know why you're here, because it's open forum, right? We can actually talk about this stuff for once. And I'm not going to say don't talk about it. But anyway, 89 people watching though. Please smash the like button, and that would be freaking fantastic. Almost 90 people here, probably one of the largest numbers we've had for a while. So thank you for being here. Let's see, 702 in the chat. Woo! I'm 38 minutes behind in the YouTube chat, by the way. 38 minutes behind. Valks, please remind them I'm 38 minutes behind. As the guy under the Odin's desk, $1.08. I don't know why those numbers. Like how I need protection from Odin's high heels of death. There's the high heels joke again. Edgardo Martinez, what's going on? Thanks for being a member. Alex McCarthy, thank you for being a member here as well. Nathan Slay at 7:02 p.m. said, won't it just be disappointing if just when the box office gets back to normal, theaters close down because they don't get enough money? Here's the thing. The box office is never getting back to normal. That is something that I think today's video I tried to convey. Is I think now we can say without a shadow of a doubt, the box office as we knew it will never come back to the way that it was before. Rob D, thanks for tagging me, says, hey, Odin, what is one subject that you weren't good at in school? For me, it was English, particularly reading comprehension. Reading comprehension was terrible, mostly on standardized testing than in real life. Mathematics, though. Whew, boy, mathematics. That was not a good subject. Let's see. Soul Assassin, thanks for being here. HyperNex13, thanks for tagging me. Are you planning to see Train to Busan Peninsula, the sequel? Yes. Ooh, yes. So yeah, Train to Busan is an amazing film by itself. Even without the zombie stuff, it's an amazing film. And Peninsula just came out. Hopefully it gets here in August. But again, who knows? Who knows if we're getting any movies this year? New ones at the very least. So I hope so. I hope the local theater that's 30 minutes away from me get some new stuff, because if Peninsula shows up there, I'll see that opening night. August 6th, I think, is when that's supposed to come stateside, North America. Let's see. Forever Sci-Fi, thank you for being a member on the channel. Hey, he says, Disney may try to sell off IPs, but who out there actually has the money to buy them? Gary might be able to buy Marvel Comics soon at the rate things are going. Yeah, there's a lot of rumors and speculations about whether they're going to have to sell off IPs in order to kind of make do. I think some of it is definitely exaggeration. Some of it might be based in reality. Again, as I always say, I think usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. I don't think that they would sell off a major property, but you make the great point too, right? Who's going to buy it, right? Who in the market's actually going to be able to buy it at this point? Orange Chat Reviews, who's a member on the channel, says, Odin, it makes me sad as well because movies are so important in keeping people sane. Escapism is essential. Well, when movies are done right, that is. Yeah, and that's the reason why I've been so against these agenda-filled films that we've had, especially the last several years, right? Because it takes away the sense of escapism. It puts you right back into reality, and that's not good. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. I would say the only counter to that would be the fact that we at least still have some TV shows that we can watch. We at the very least have a plethora of streaming services. If you have your own physical media collection, a plethora of content as well, that at least there's something we can go back to. As far as new stuff goes, yeah, absolutely. And I think that eventually we still need new ideas. We need new ways of escaping. And again, I really hope that we get something before everything dies out altogether. Tina B says, and someone who hates your box office stuff gave you a thumbs down. Good grief, you said nothing about Brie yet. I always get thumbs down. There's just people that they live to come in and say, oh, I don't like this person, and I'm not even going to watch or listen or even tell him why. I'm just going to do this. By the way, Waylon Jackson, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. I appreciate it. JustJoe47, thanks for tagging me, says, did you see the eye for an eye match between Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins? More like an eye for a painted marble match. Well, Rey and Seth had a good match before the ending. Yeah, I've heard about this. I didn't see it, and it just sounds so stupid. Like, I'm sorry, I understand, you know, it's soap opera, right? It's staged, and there's a part of me that still loves that stuff, but I loved it when it was more about the wrestling. Again, good storylines are great, but you got to have the good wrestling. But then there's times like this when someone loses an eye where it's like, that's just completely unrealistic. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And no, I didn't see it, though. It just sounds ridiculous. Nathan Slay. Personally, this is just really frustrating year. Movies are dying and the NFL is going full on political. I'm a diehard football fan and this makes me upset. Yeah, I mean, dear Lord, I don't know what the hell is going to happen with football. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be awful. At least, hey, baseball starting up soon. That, I guess, is kind of exciting. A 60-game season. The only reason why I mention it is because I have T-Mobile, and when you have T-Mobile, you actually get MLB TV for free for about a year. For the full season. And that's nice. So this year was a $60 value because it's only a 60-game season. Normally it's 120, but hey, free stuff is fun. AJ Borkar says, do you think award shows will expand nominees because of the direct release model? One of two things are going to happen, AJ. One, they're going to cancel altogether. All right, so one, they're going to cancel altogether. There's a very good chance you could see things like the Emmys, I think, are more protected because I think a lot of the shows that were supposed to come out have come out, right? There are certain parts of seasons that have been delayed, but I feel like TV was less impacted by it because of just the way the TV model works versus the way movies work. Less time on TV, more time it takes for movies. But for the Oscars, yeah, I think that you're going to see that be a problem because you're not going to have anything really to nominate, right? Especially now because this year they are implementing their new standards where you have to have a certain level of diversity to even be considered for things like Best Picture, right? And so that's already going to limit their options in the first place. So one, I think you could see them just completely just delete it for the year, cancel it for the year, right? That could definitely happen. The second option would be that there's going to be a combination of both delay and also expansion of the rules. We've already seen them start this process, all right, because they actually already said they are now going to allow films that are streamed, that are on a streaming service, to be considered. So they've done away with the criteria that a film has to be shown and has to get a theatrical release. They've already done away with that, and they did away with that, I want to say, a couple months ago. But now they're in a position where even films that come out on demand might not be enough for them to be able to have enough films to really, play around with. So, yeah, I could see them more than likely canceling things if things go the way that they continue to go. Again, if no major new releases come out this year, they really got nothing that they can go with. So, to me, it would make a hell of a lot more sense to say, all right, we're just going to cancel it this year and come back fresh next year, and then we'll have essentially, 1.5 years worth of stuff to put up for nomination, etc. So those are the two processes, though, I think. Canceled Venom, who's a member on the channel, says, do you think I'm pretty? Yeah, sure. Why not? Eric M., what's going on, man? Mark Lazurth, did you talk about the several Catholic churches that were set on fire over the weekend? Not yet, man, but it is very upsetting. As you all know, I'm a devout Catholic, and I think anyone of any faith seeing the things that we have been seeing is just so, again, it drops the heart. It really does, because you're looking at an attack on faith institutions, and for some people, they might try and justify it in their head saying, well, it makes sense because of X, Y, Z. It's never okay to destroy a church building. It's never okay to decapitate a statue of a saint at a church that did nothing to you. Right? To destroy church property, to destroy any private property for that matter. It's never okay to do that. And so, yeah, it takes me off, for one, Mark, and it also concerns me as well, because we've seen an uptick in cases of religious sites, churches, statues being attacked, being set ablaze. Again, a lot more attacks on faith institutions now, and it does scare me a little bit. It really does, especially since the Catholic Church is not in a very good position right now for a wide variety of reasons, but everything with COVID has put the collection plate, has cut it in half, and I think that's putting it lightly. And if the collection plate that you get on Sunday, at least at Catholic churches, that first collection, that goes right back into the parish. That keeps the lights on. It keeps the AC on. It pays for anyone that's working in the office. It keeps the basic things that you would never think about going. So if the church doesn't have anything, then it can't stand. It has to start either firing people. A priest might have to leave because they can't afford to have a priest on there. Because keep in mind, if a priest is not in a religious order, they have to pay for everything themselves, right? They get a stipend and they pay for their groceries and anything else that they might actually need. So it's a very dangerous time for the church, and these attacks that we're having on the churches are not good at all. It's very scary. DM, thanks for tagging me, says, what is your exercise routine like? It's non-existent. That's what it is. It's non-existent. If you couldn't tell already. Dark Shadow Logan, what's going on? Orange Chat Reviews. Let's see. I feel bad to the students with glasses, Odin. Yeah, seriously, Orange Chat. I feel you, man. You know, that's why hopefully they're able. I think there are some masks that are made that do help to prevent against fogging up glasses. My dad, as I mentioned, you know, as a doctor, he wears one of those masks and he also wears glasses. So there are masks out there that are capable of being worn without fogging up the glasses. But yeah, well, just keep this in mind, right? You're thinking about students that have to wear a mask, teachers that have to wear a mask for the entire school day. Right? The only exception being like if they're in the commode, right? Obviously they could take it off then if they're in you know, one of the private stalls. When you're eating, right? Obviously you can take it off, but at that point you have to be separated from your friends. You can't be right next to your friends anymore. So it's going to have an impact on our students because again, you're wearing a mask for most of the day. It's not comfortable, especially after a long period of time. And, you know, as a teacher, we have to enforce the policy. And we have to because it's being mandated not just by our own school, but by our diocese, by the county, right? And so there's so many layers to it. And again, my heart goes out to all of us teachers, anyone who's a teacher, and also to all students too. It's not going to be easy. Nathan Slay, I watched The Social Network last night and thought it was decent. Should it have deserved Best Picture? I saw the movie too. It's very well written, but it definitely is not a film that I would say I love by any means. Does it deserve Best Picture? I would say no. Did it deserve the Oscar for Aaron Sorkin's screenplay? Yeah, sure. It was very well written. It's very, very well written. Riff Magos, thank you for another $5 donation via Streamlabs. Again, thank you very much for the direct donation. Here's another before work. I'm a devout heathen, and the church burnings in France made me angry. This is never okay, ever. Thank you, Riff Magos, man. Yeah, and again, this is something that I think all people of all faith backgrounds can agree on, right? The destruction of property is never a good thing. It's never something that can be justified. But Riff, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. Melina S., thank you for subscribing to the channel. Tina B says, my comment for Open Forum is, did you hear that Planned Parenthood is removing Sanger's name from their buildings in New York in the black communities? Don't matter if they do or not. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Only in those communities are they removing that name. Isn't that interesting? Doubt that they'll erase her name from their histories. I doubt that they'll erase her name completely from their, from their major talking points, right? You had literally the last major Democratic candidate, Hillary Clinton, say Margaret Sanger was a hero, was a feminist hero. And that was only, 4 years ago, right? Not to pick on Democrats, but again, you had a major party contender talking about and praising Margaret Sanger. For those that are not aware, Margaret Sanger is the founder of Planned Parenthood. She's also a racist, a eugenicist, and she actually placed specifically Planned Parenthood facilities in poor black neighborhoods because she actually wanted to erase and eradicate the entire African American population. Yeah. That is the history of Planned Parenthood, and it's a history that the people that work for Planned Parenthood want you to forget about. Never forget. Never forget that whole industry and that whole business is founded upon and is based upon complete racism and the death of innocent children. And it still goes on to this day, by the way. Still goes on to this day. Tina, thank you for letting me know how to contact me. And again, I don't even know who you are. So, Jason, you're very much coming across as more of a troll than anything else. I've never seen you in the chat before, and don't talk like you know me, because I don't know you, and you don't know my Valks. So please watch the attitude, please. CWD Trixie says, how boring and or cringy do you expect this year's award season to be, especially due to lack of movies so far? As I said, might not have it this year. Kigo Rogers, have you complimented Freya today? Always, Kigo Rogers, every day. Every day. It's very easy. It's very easy for me to do that because she is awesome. Soul Assassin says, after seeing your Phantom posts in Twitter, I want to see a review for it now. Well, I don't have it yet because it's actually a re-release of the film. So it's a film starring Billy Zane. It's a film called The Phantom. And you'll remember it because it's his costume. He was a superhero or a hero, and he wore a purple spandex suit. It was played by Billy Zane, and he had this really awesome skull ring. And I remember wearing that skull ring all the time when I was a kid. And is it cheesy? If I watch it today, would the visual effects probably make me cringe? Yeah, probably. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But man, oh man, it was a fun film. So I've already pre-ordered it because it was out of print, actually. And if you go on Amazon now, there are people selling the old edition that came out about 10 years ago. And again, they stopped printing it. So once it's out of print, it goes up in price. They're selling it for like 40, 50 bucks. Nay, don't spend that because they're going to give a brand new release of the film in September. And you can get it on sale right now for 10 bucks on Blu-ray. It's a pretty good deal. I would argue with that at least. Let's see. HyperNext13. It's nice to see Sucker Punch embracing criticism and wanting to learn from mistakes with Ghost of Tsushima. Naughty Dog with Last of Us 2 ought to learn that as well. I don't understand the Sucker Punch reference. However, Ghost of Tsushima looks like a fantastic game. It looks amazing. Like, seriously, it looks fantastic. Naughty Dog has a lot of things to learn in general. Waiting for Nerdrotic Laura says, open forum, yes! I got nothing. Have a good stream. Well, thank you very much, Waiting for Nerdrotic. Thank you, Laura. Cobra Viber 999. I'm going HMV this weekend. Arrow Blu-rays are 2 for $15 for sale. Ooh, nice. Nice. I guess that means you're going movie hunting. That's very cool. Yeah, Arrow Video releases are pretty great. And also, I think right now, Criterion's collection, every year it goes on sale for about half off. And, yeah. It's there's some good films that are available, but even at half off, sometimes I think that they're charging way too much. Tina, again, if you have a comment or question, remember you have to tag Odin Question, all one word, Odin Question. It highlights orange on my screen and lets me know you're trying to get my attention. If you don't, I'm not going to see it unless you're a new name, and I'll shout out the new name I see. Or if you're a member on the channel, then all you need to do is comment and not tag anyone else, and then I can, direct my attention towards you. We're still at 712 in the chat. Oh my goodness, this is the furthest behind I think I've ever been in my life. Anyway, Forever Sci-Fi, Odin's YouTube blog. You can track view counts for the week and compare, then break down the upvotes and downvotes. Yeah, not really. You're talking about for streaming services? You really can't, though, because the streaming services do not release raw numbers or raw totals. And anything that does get released by them is released by their own internal metrics, which means it's not, one, it's not verifiable, and two, it means that it's not reliable information. So I wish it worked that way, because right now, if you go to places like thenumbers.com or even Box Office Mojo, I think was doing it as well, they were basically only posting the, what's the number, what's the top 10 movies that are streaming right now, but all of those are completely arbitrary, because all Netflix needs to say is, oh, this was our number one movie. And then they're like, oh, this was the number one movie. And so it's not as easy to track as money and box office numbers, right? So as I said, I think that the way that we track box office is essentially dead with all the stuff going on. Anyway, Tina B says, I'm doing well. No drink with me right now. I'm a bit discombobulated today. No problem. We all go through that. It's fine. Canceled Venom, who's a member, says, or canceled Venom's questions, then he skips the intent. What? What do you mean? As Captain Dean Heist checks his cookie. Hybrid X13, thanks for tagging me, man. I appreciate it. Random question. Do you have an all-time favorite lawyer character? Can be from any form of entertainment, TV, movie, etc. Saul Goodman would be a good one for me, Hypern says. Saul Goodman's a great one. Better Call Saul, fantastic show. Glad I got into it this year, in the summer, actually. I binge watched all the seasons. Can't wait for the final one. And that's a good one. I would say, because it's off the top of my head, I would go with Jim Carrey's character from Liar Liar. Because it's hilarious. He's technically a lawyer in the movie, and it's fun. Nathan Slay, so does the movie Get Out not push an agenda? Just wondering. So here's the thing, right? Jordan Peele, who made Get Out, who also made the movie Us, there are definitely political undertones to his movies. There's no doubt about that. The difference, I would say, is that his movies, I think, are so well made, like just well put together, with the editing, pacing, I would even say with the general writing as well, that you're able to see and pay attention to a good movie in lieu of any commentary that might be there, right? So I guess I can compare two different directors that do very similar things, but in different ways, right? Jordan Peele on one side, Spike Lee on the other, right? Spike Lee is very clear in what his political intent is, and it's distracting, and it's just terrible because he's making a great film, objectively, but he's allowing his own biases to just destroy the narrative that he's created. Jordan Peele, on the other hand, is able to craft a story that you can basically view in two ways. Because if you go through and if you were to blind watch the movie Us or the movie Get Out, you probably wouldn't pick up on that much. Maybe a couple things. Again, depending on how educated or how attuned you are to the issues of the day, you might pick up on a couple things. But for the most part, you'd be able to enjoy it for what it is. If you studied the film before watching it and you read the articles about it and you read about the controversies, etc., and then you watch the movie, well, then you'd notice every single little thing, right? And I think that's kind of the difference, right? Is that Jordan Peele, I think, is much more subtle with his filmmaking, and it's much more enjoyable because of that, versus Spike Lee, who is much more abrupt and is much more in your face about it, and that's why it gets distracting. But anyway. Larry who's a member, says, better get Mel Brooks box set before it's gone. I already have that. I've already backed up several Mel Brooks movies, man. Thanatos Felicitas says, Silver Streak and Stir Crazy would be problematic. Silver Streak is already backed up. And again, if you want to recommend anything, go to the website too, because there's a place where you can recommend movies. Don't do it here. Do it there, because I do like explanations as to what's in the movie, what's in this series that would make it problematic. Or is there currently a campaign against it? Right? That's also important. A lot of people in here tonight, from what I can tell, early on at the very least. Trying to make sure I get everyone. Forever Sci-Fi says, Dinosaurs had the most messed up ending of any kid's show ever. Yeah, it's one that I don't think I ever watched in person, but obviously I've read about it since then. Larry, he's not showing films on YouTube. I don't do that. Yeah, I don't show movies on YouTube. Instead, we do a watch party where people watch along with me. Kigo Rogers, you should see Spies Like Us. I don't know about... Maybe I've heard of that. I need more context for it. Tina B, thank you for reminding them once again to tag me as well. Yeah, and this dude is kind of being... a bit of a tool. So Tina, if at any point this dude, Jason, bothers you, annoys you, feel free to time him out if you want. It's up to you. Again, because I don't know who that person is. Larry says, I saw a movie in a theater in past. What? I saw a movie in a theater in past. Huh? What? Bruce says, I love the show, and I have it. Context, man. I'm assuming you're talking about dinosaurs? I think so. Yeah, it looks like he's just talking to himself, and he's just trolling. And it's just not funny. Hard Fork, welcome to the channel. It's a name I have not seen. Mike, what's going on, Mike? Glad to see you here as well. Rob D says, this would probably never happen, but when a movie is coming out on VOD, they should offer coupons for popcorn and soda you can buy at Walmart or something on the film's website. You know what? That might be something they try, Rob D. In fact, that's a pretty interesting idea, right? Eventually, when studios go all, on demand, you could potentially see something like that. However, the reason why I think you wouldn't see that is because it's just cheaper already. to be at home getting your own box of pop. I mean, you can get a box of popcorn, like a box of several packets of popcorn for the price you pay for a small or large popcorn at the movie theater. So something tells me you really wouldn't need to offer coupons in general because it's already cheap enough. But I mean, they're going to have to try and do something to try and push people over to that new era once that happens. Forever Sci-Fi, who's a member on the channel, says, no sports to watch, no movies to watch. Thankfully, there have been some video games to play during this time. Also, this is a good time to come out with a new book. Spot on right there. Again, this is a good time to catch up with older films that maybe you've never seen before, catch up with some books. I've been doing some reading as well. Again, I'm a theology teacher. I'm a theologian with a master's in it. So I obviously like to read things from occasion. So yeah, I've been reading some, stuff that most people would see as boring. Some encyclicals written by Pope Benedict XVI and one or two by Pope Francis. And yeah, just kind of giving myself some more things to talk about during the school year. It's good, of course, to be educated on the issues before you talk about it, right? It wouldn't be good if that wasn't the case. All right, the chat on YouTube has finally jumped on me. I can guarantee you comments have indeed been skipped. I'm just going to say it right now because now it's 7:45 p.m. in the chat, and it was just like, 7:10? So again, if you left a comment prior to 7:44 and you've been here the whole time and I haven't read it yet, it most likely has been skipped, and that includes people who are members. So again, I'm very sorry about that, but for some reason was falling very far behind. Something tells me it's because I saw at least one or two people that were just posting spam, and that increases the number of posts, and it just doesn't get good. But anyway, we got 80 people still watching. Please make sure you smash the like button. Before getting back to my YouTube peeps, let me go ahead and check over to my D-Live fam real quick. Daniel Thorne has a couple comments saying, why didn't the media and government talk about boosting the immune system instead of weakening it with stay-at-home mandates and no contact? I've already seen Train to Busan 2. It was good, but not better than the first. Apparently, the zombie virus can't stop zombie cammers. I don't know what that last part means, but yeah, I mean, sequels, it's always hard for them to live up to the original, but as long as if it's a good movie like the first one was, I'll be happy. Right? If it's just your standard zombie fare, I have no interest in that. But if it's a good movie that's taking place during the zombie apocalypse, then I'm okay with it. Then I'm fine with it. And as far as the first thing goes, I mean, different countries handled it in different ways. I think was it Denmark or Sweden or one of those countries? They had it where there were no stay-at-home orders. You were able to just go about your everyday life and things like that. And so a lot of people got sick. Their numbers spiked very, very quickly. But then it kind of flattened out a little bit. So because, I mean, you're going to find some people with antibodies, and no one's immune to it, though. Again, I guess that's kind of the important thing, is that no one's really immune to it because it's something that, it can, what's the word for it? It can mutate. And so you might be immune to some strand of it, but then it can mutate into something slightly different, and it can still impact you in that way. And so again, there's different philosophies behind it. And again, I'm no expert on it, but I know that there's two different ways of doing it, and I think both have seen effectiveness. Right? For example, Australia had harsh shutdown measures, and now it's essentially gone from their country. So you're seeing both sides doing two different things and having similar effects. Captain Darkstar 57, what's going on, bruv? Says, I think Hollywood will do all they can to make sure the theaters are reopened to show their propaganda films to the unwashed masses. And here's the thing, Captain Darkstar, it's not just that, though, right? I've seen a lot of people make comments like that where, talking about the propaganda and talking about how evil the studios are. Here's the bottom line. Studios want to make money first and foremost. They want to make money so that they can continue to make these terrible projects that do perpetuate their propaganda, right? They want to continue to push their propaganda into their big budget films too, but they got to make money in order for that to happen. And up until now, the only way for them to make large bits of money is to have a movie get a theatrical release. Peabody says, no exercise. What? No dog park for puppies? We have not found a dog park comparable to the one back home, sadly. There's at least a couple, but they're just not that great. The other one had lots of places for shade for both us and the puppies, and it just was so nice. It was great. It was free. Haven't really found that up here. The one park that we have found, really not a whole lot of shade for us, especially right now during the summer with it. We take the pups on walks, but we probably should take them on more walks if I'm gonna be honest. We definitely do fall behind on that sometimes, and again, it's just because of the age that we're currently living in, and the craziness and madness of everything going on. And speaking of which, with the puppies, I do think it's important now to get a little puppy cam action. So as you all know, I found out a way to connect my phone to the computer. So we just got a new bed, and so you can see that Willow has utilized it. She was chewing on a bone earlier, which is right next to it. Now she's curled up in a little ball and just sleeping and passed out. And then in her normal spot right underneath the desk, so as you can see, the guy under my desk is not there. Instead, it's just River. And as you can see, she is nice and comfy. I know it's hard to see, but again, she has black fur and is in the darkness under the desk. So she, makes her comfortable though. Makes her comfortable. But anyway, a little bit of a puppy cam action. So again, both very, very sleepy puppies have both had very, very, very busy days. And yeah, they're being adorable and cute. And I love it. So anyway. There you go, little puppy cam action for the peeps. Daniel Thorne says, one side effect of the CV vaccines currently being developed is fever. Movie theaters with temperature detection will block them. Well, again, it depends. We're way too early. And here's the other thing, too. I had one crazy person in the comments section saying, it's 2020 and they still haven't developed the vaccine. And I'm thinking to myself, do you understand that it takes a long time, no matter what year it is, to develop a vaccine? We're breaking records now. Like, we are doing it very fast, faster than ever before, right? Because of the technology that we now have in 2020. But there's a thing called testing that still needs to be done, because not one vaccine is not going to be able to help every person. And so they have to test it to make sure it's safe for the vast majority of people, make sure that there's no crazy side effects, make sure that it's not going to kill a bunch of people, right? And that takes time, and that takes patience. And this dude just didn't want to hear any of it. So, of course, I was like, all right, wash my hands if you go away, please. But if someone were to get that vaccine and a side effect of it was fever, it wouldn't last for very long. I'm assuming it would be like the instant side effect of when you have it, or something that would pass over a week. And so, yeah, if you want to go see a movie the day you got the vaccine, probably. But again, the vaccines are not going to be ready now for still a few more months. He says, any political undertones to the new Twilight Zone by Jordan Peele? People have told me just to stay with the original. I've not seen any episodes of the new one. I've heard there's some political stuff in there. However, I would just say your second point is the most accurate, because the original's great. There was no need for it to ever be rebooted or changed. Peabody says, Spies Like Us, Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase. Ooh, that's a good cast. Captain K-Man, thank you for the 3 ice cream donations. I appreciate it. Daniel Thorne, what is the most boring book you've ever read? Twilight. And yes, I've read Twilight, and I'll tell you why. It's so that at moments like this, and at any moment anyone ever says, Twilight was good, I can say, no, it wasn't. And then as soon as they say, how would you know? It's not like you've read. I can say, I actually did read it, just so I could at this moment tell you you're wrong and it's terrible. And I can tell you why it's terrible. Boring, awful. Yep, I'd go with Twilight. Captain Darkstar 57, thank you for the diamond donation, good sir. He says, FYI, take a look at Twitter when you have time. If it's a message, I don't have time. Okay, yeah, I don't have time. So if it was an image I could look at, great. If it's a message, I'll take care of that after the stream. Peabody says the problem is they keep importing the virus. Yeah, I mean, again, when your country has pretty much gotten rid of it, the only way that it continues to come back is if people from other countries and places come into it and bring it back. Ooh, Kaba's in the chat. What's going on, Adam and the clan? What's going on, Kaba? How's it going, Kaba? Peabody says, the guy under the desk was eaten by River. Ah, yeah, she is a guard dog after all. I would have heard some barking, though. She tends to shriek when things are going awry. Peabody then says, Adam and yourself already have the cure. It's called Vegemite. I actually don't have Vegemite anymore, Peabody. Sadly, during one of the moves, it was disposed of because my wife was like, can we please not have this she's like, I can't stare at it anymore, and neither of us are going to use it, and it's just taking up space. And I was like, okay, fine. So again, I'm sorry, Peabody, but yeah, I no longer have the cure, actually. And to be honest, it might be a good thing, because dear Lord, it was so bad. So bad. All right, back over to YouTube at 7:45 on YouTube. It's 8:15 where I am. I am 30 minutes behind in the chat. So again, 30 minutes behind. Don't double post, please. Anyway, Forever Sci-Fi, the NFL is dead to me. Being a Lions fan for decades didn't kill off my love for the game, but them getting political did, and it's going to push a lot of people away, I'd imagine. Especially since we don't know if people are even going to be allowed to watch the games in a crowd. Kind of a key part of the game when you think about it. Tina B says, so Sonic won't win Best Picture, context Oscar garbage movies. No, it won't. It won't even get nominated. Yeah, because that's the thing, is that the movies that they would have at their disposal would be movies that got wide releases that have no business being nominated for the Oscars, or movies that are very obscure independents that got released on random services and sites that no one's ever heard of, which wouldn't be different than what the Oscars have done recently. But even they do have some standards where they need to have some blockbusters in there, and they really can't justify any of the films that have been released. Like, people like to joke about Birds of Prey, but I'm going to be honest here. I don't believe, and if I'm wrong on this, I'm willing to, make a bet with it, and etc. But I'm going to say right now, Birds of Prey is not getting nominated for Best Picture. Just not going to happen. Could they try and sneak in a costume nomination or something like that? Yeah, maybe. But Best Picture, even the Oscars wouldn't go that far. Rob D says, I know you're not really into the Oscars, but are there any Best Picture winners you feel deserved it, and are there any you feel didn't deserve it? Well, Rob D, here's the thing. I used to love the Oscars, man. I used to have all the knowledge. I used to follow that stuff. I mean, I was actually able to still predict some of the Oscar stuff this year because I knew that editing, getting a nomination in the editing category, has played a key role in most films that have won Best Picture, of which Parasite had, and that's how I was able to predict Parasite over the other films that people thought were going to win instead. But regardless of that, I used to love it, and then it just got so full of itself. It just got so political to the point, it's always been political, right? They've always been full of themselves. But when you get to the point where every second is a political statement, when even the presenters are pushing a political statement, it's like, I can't. And so I refuse to watch it. And so I've been boycotting it now for years. And now I've, been doing the Raven Awards instead, the Wednesday Raven Awards, which is our own award show we host on this channel as a boycott, really, for the Oscars. And that's one of the other things that's kind of sad, is that if there's no Oscars, technically that means there can't be a Ravens. However, if they do decide to cancel the Oscars, I will do the very best I can to try and get us to still get a Ravens award. But who knows what's going to happen with that, because I'm willing to give awards to films like Sonic. And also, of course, we have negative categories, which will be much easier, because I think Birds of Prey will probably win a lot of those. That and Terminator Dark Fate, probably. But as far as your question goes, Best Picture winners that deserved it, ask Tina. Tina has a list of all, in her brain, she has all of them. And there are several films that have won Best Picture that have easily deserved to win Best Picture. As far as ones that didn't deserve to win Best Picture, there's only one in recent memory that's a film that I think is garbage and I hate, and it's called Crash. Crash never, ever deserved to win an Oscar. Forever Sci-Fi, thanks for being a member. He says, are you pulling on sympathy weight? No. Nope. Canceled Venom for being a member says, I'll lend my faith and energy to you, Odin, as you lend and share your voice and ears every live stream. Things will get better. Well, Canceled Venom, thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Ernest Rojas, what's going on? Tina says, I hope that at the Ravens next year we get a category of movies that were nominated, should have won Best Picture and got passed over. Raiders, Star Wars, Citizen Kane, The Right Stuff. Probably not, because again, I do like still keeping it in, into the modern era and not having categories that do that, right? Because that's kind of the point, is it's like we're still, acknowledging the best films and things of this year as compared to, just like what the Oscars are doing. That's why it's kind of like a boycott of it, right? We could create something brand new to have something like that, but that's also why I have category like the Lifetime Achievement Award, because that's when you can talk about people that deserve to have more recognition. Nitrium, who's a member, says about the virus. The final death rate is 0.06% in Sweden with no lockdown. I suspect it will settle about there globally. Less deadly than the flu virus, but a lot more contagious, hence higher fatalities. Yeah, Nitrium, I think you hit it right on the head, man. And that's the reason why. Again, it's much more easily contagious. And so, I think the reason why you saw a lot more panic here in the United States was because, again, there was a lot we didn't know about it. And so some people acted out of prudence. Some people acted out of the good or thinking of the good of others and wanted to protect those people. And obviously Sweden had a very different way of going about it, thinking, okay, let's try this approach. And based on the numbers, it seems that their approach was probably and here's the other thing too, is that by the end of it, I wouldn't be surprised if our final death rate is probably relatively close to that one. And if that's the case, then I guess one could say, okay, both things work. However, the obvious winner there is Sweden, because Sweden didn't destroy their economy, at least last time I checked, like the United States did. So, again, I guess it's the way you look at it. Edgardo Martinez, who's a member, says, the Phantom was an okay comic strip here on my local Sunday newspaper edition. Yeah, I never knew it as the comic. I just knew it as the film that came out. Hypernex13, thanks for tagging me, man. Says, sorry I wasn't specific enough, my brother. Context for Ghost of Tsushima. Sucker Punch is the company that made the game Ghost of Tsushima. So they're more willing to take criticism. And you know what, though? It just seems to me like anyone that's criticizing it is nitpicking at this point, right? Because everything I've seen from the game and the gameplay, I've been watching PewDiePie's gameplay, it looks fantastic. Just looks amazing. Alrighty. Let us see here. Bruce, who's a member, says, I've been wanting to rewatch The Phantom. Glad to hear they're coming out with a new Blu-ray release. I'll wait for that one. Yeah, again, coming out September. Might want to pre-order it now while it's $10. It at some point probably will get lower, but still. Forever Sci-Fi says, not streaming services, actual YouTubers turn YouTube into a box office blog just to have something to do. Wait, Forever Sci-Fi. Not streaming services, actual YouTubers turn YouTube into a box office blog just to have something to do. I don't quite understand what that means. Mikey says, how do you deal with copyright on your preservation server? Do you think they'll come for you with the DCMA hammer? No, because all of the films and TV on there are films and TV that I own. So I have the physical discs that I've bought with my own money or have been gifted to me. So again, I own everything that is on that server. And so basically all I'm doing is taking the product that I've bought and just basically preserving it just in case of scratches, etc., right? And so because it's being preserved in that way, no. Now, if I were to start replicating them and start even just giving them away, right, regularly to people, then maybe they would come after me in that instance. But they have bigger fish to fry. They're still trying to go after the bigger high sea servers, the pirate bays and things like that, because they're the ones that are not just giving away stuff for free, but then there's also a lot of viruses that are being sent and a lot of other things going on there too. But me with my own personal home server, I doubt very much so that they would go after me. And again, all I'm doing is doing something that there's bigger YouTubers than I that do exactly what I'm doing, not for the same reason, but they also digitize theirs for their own Plex media. So again, as long as you own it, if I was downloading things that I didn't own, right, and then putting them on it, well, then maybe, yeah, they would have a case. But anyway. Rob D says, film studios are going to give Microsoft Xbox statistics for their films on VOD. Over 500 million people read the plot description of our movie. Well, that'll be interesting to see. Yeah, and I imagine that you might see that happen with some services. But hey, man, I'm going to be honest. If I was Disney Plus or Netflix, I would just give basic metrics and not specifics. Because that's the other thing too, right? How can you really determine what's a success and what's not? Oh, we had 100 million people watch this movie on Netflix. How many of them, my question would be, well, how many of them were already subscribers, right? Where's the revenue stream there? It means very little to me, right? And that's why I wouldn't want to cover that, because the number of people watching it on a streaming service means nothing if there isn't a monetary value that can be given to that number. And there really can't be. There really can't be a monetary value given to that. Versus the box office where, well, it's the box office. It's cash, right? There's a monetary value specifically in what you get itself. So, yeah. Nathan Slay, after watching Back to the Future Part 2, I love it, and I think it's an underrated sequel. Yeah. The entire trilogy is fantastic. It's one of my favorites of all time. Cancel Venom. Joe Pesci is my preferred lawyer. Ooh, that's a good one. Great film, too. Tina B says, Spies Like Us was a New Year's Eve movie years ago for me, my brother and sisters. It has Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd at the CIA. Very cool. Bruce says, yes, dinosaurs. Man, you've never been so behind. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been this far behind. Lord Toth, what's going on, man? I saw that name before the chat jumped on me. So let me go ahead and come back up. All right, cool. It looks like things have slowed down. So whatever was happening earlier, and I think we just had a lot of people in here posting random things, and that's what was backing the chat up. There was one person specifically that was just posting literally a comment to everything it seemed like I was saying, which is the most troll and annoying thing to do. Don't ever do that. Be respectful of others. And so luckily it looks like I'm caught up, but let me catch up with my D-Live fam real quick. There's 16 people watching on D-Live, which means trolls are a-lurking. I imagine I will probably see some people that have gotten the hammer laid on them. Captain Dark 57 says, that's what I meant. I ran out of characters to finish the thought. It's all good, bruv. It is all good. Adam says, I still want to know what is going to happen with our 2020 popcorn bucket. Damn it. I want my popcorn now. Yeah, I haven't, the manager that I talked to, who's still a friend, they did not mention anything about that specifically. But as I said, I think that's something that they're going to handle once they're open. They have to open before they can answer those questions, you know? They have to have an end in sight where they can finally say, okay, so now we can say if you have this bucket, it's going to be extended into next year, etc. Philly the Hobbit, thank you for the lemon donation. I appreciate it very much. You're awesome. And Cam Dean Heights, thank you for the 3 ice cream donations. And that's it. Awesome. Glad I was able to catch up on them. Back to YouTube. It's 8:06 on YouTube. It's 8:26. Exactly 20 minutes behind. And that's me catching up. 20 minutes behind is me catching up. That's crazy. Anyway, David Prevost says, what's your favorite genre, TV, movies, etc.? You mean format? I love movies. Or do you mean favorite genre in TV, in movies? For television, I prefer comedies. They're usually, I like shorter stuff that's funny, has a little bit of a story to it, but is mostly driven by the characters and just the very, the hilarity that ensues from it. So I'm a huge fan of the earlier seasons of Big Bang Theory. I just love it so much, the nerdiness and everything. I'm still watching it. Like, actually, HBO Max has the entire thing on there. And so actually, in my meantime, I've actually been watching, trying to catch up because I know the series has ended. And it definitely is not nearly as funny as it was in the beginning, but it still has its moments. So I'm in season 8 of that right now. And as far as movies go, I would say my favorite movie genres usually are going to be action, drama, comedy. Those would be like my top 3. Most likely. 13th Warrior, welcome. Glad to see you in the chat. Eric M. Hey, Odin, have you heard all the Harry Potter movies are leaving HBO Max on August 25th? Yes, I have heard that, Eric M. And basically the understanding is this. So it's not as it's leaving HBO Max, it's that it's rotating out. So HBO Max has described this as a rotation factor. So basically they're going to have a series of movies that are going to rotate constantly in and out. So Harry Potter films will return at some point in the future. Now, this is, I think, a tactic they're trying because no other service, I think, has tried it really. I mean, Netflix, they have contracts. Those contracts expire. They lose films. Sometimes they're able to get some of them back. Other times they're not. These are movies that they own for HBO Max, right? And so I think they're just trying it out to see what they can do. What my hope is that they realize the people hate it, and then they stop doing it, and then they just allow everything to be on there. Because eventually they have stuff that they don't own. They have stuff that they're just basically leasing from other places and need to at some point get rid of. So my hope is that they instead try to rotate non-Warner Brothers stuff on to the best of their ability, just like what a Netflix would do, and keep all of their stuff on there all the time. That would be, I think, the best thing. Eric M. then says, and also Dumb and Dumber and Full Metal Jacket leaving HBO Max August 31st as well. Yeah, I don't know or remember the studios behind those two films. If it's HBO, or rather if it's Warner Brothers or anything connected with Warner Brothers, then same reasoning. Again, it's a rotation. If not, then it just means the contracts on those movies have gone up, and they're probably going back to their home. Sasha Neon says, with all this free time on your hands, gonna start a knitting circle. Baby Thor needs booties. Luckily, we've been given a lot of awesome stuff from friends and family. A lot of hand-me-downs, some new things too. So clothing is the least of our concerns right now at this point. So Eric M. again says, do you know this Geeks and Gamers reference another Blue Shells on the way? Yes. Because it's a Mario Kart. Anyone that plays Mario Kart, you don't need to have Geeks and Gamers to get that, man. Nitrium, who's a member, says, Jordan Peele, the second season of Twilight Zone, for which Peele is executive producer and narrator, isn't woke, and the stories are a lot better than the first season, which was woke and bad in my opinion. I thought Jordan Peele was the host and a producer on that first season too. Nitrium, let me know what his role was. But yeah, again, I think Jordan Peele is a great creative mind. Does that mean he's perfect? No, but I think he's a great creative mind. Nathan Slay, it's 2020 and we still don't have hoverboards or flying cars or jackets that drive themselves. I know. We need it. Forever Sci-Fi is a member. I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Great skit. Love that skit. G-Monkey76, what's going on? Sasha Neon says, anyone here voting Kanye? I'm on the fence with letting a Kardashian be first lady. Yeah, I mean, is he going to be running until the election? Is he not? There was a tweet that came out today that said something about him trying to focus on his music. So is that him saying he's throwing in the towel, even though the paperwork has been filed, I believe, with the FEC? So who knows what's going to happen, right? I don't plan to vote for him. I don't know what his platform is. Once he has an official platform, I might look into it, but I doubt I will vote for him. Yeah. But if you decide to do that, man, good luck. Tina B, thanks for letting them know. So again, if you are new to the channel, in order to have a comment read aloud, you need to type Odin question, all one word, Odin question. It highlights orange on my screen and lets me know you're trying to get my attention. It's an easier way for anyone watching on mobile, because in mobile you can't tag the channel. And also, it helps to kind of limit the number of comments and questions, because it means, hey, you have to be a part of Asgard in order to, in order to have kind of the code to get in almost. But it also means you don't have to super chat either, though donating via Streamlabs would be ideal because it helps. Celebrity Jeremy, thank you for the $5 super chat, bro. He says, hey, Odin, sorry I can't be here very often, but when I'm here, I always enjoy your insight. Well, Celebrity Jeremy, thank you very much for being here. I'm glad to see that the Jer Army is still alive and kicking. And thank you very much for the love and support. I have not been as nearly as active on geeksandgamers.com as I hope to be. But as I said, it's just been lots of things going on. Zach Lozelle, thank you very much for subscribing. That was about 16 minutes ago. Laura, waiting for Nerdrotic, the modern Major General, says, Star Wars novel Resistance Reborn was the worst book I've ever read. Well, excuse me, I'm glad I'll be able to avoid that. Thanatos Felicitas, instead of Vegemite, get a jar of pickled pig's feet. No. You said pickled and you said pig's feet. No, thank you. I say nay, nay. Tina says, I thought, by the way, she's the Empress of the Universe. I thought Kanye couldn't get on the ballot in most states, and it's too late to decide to run in 2020 anyway. I think he can technically get on the ballot in some states, but not all. Every state has very different rules. And, yeah, because also there's a lot of states that have write-ins. So you can run a pretty successful write-in campaign. For example, there was, I believe, a politician in Alaska who ran as a third party and was not able to get on the ballot officially. And so basically she ran, I think it was a she ran a third-party campaign write-in campaign and won. She actually won as a write-in candidate. So it can happen. Now, that's a very specific circumstance. She was very well known. Her campaign was backed very well. It was a very well-run campaign. So, yeah, but it can happen. A lot of states do have write-in options. Nitrium says, virus seems about 40% of people are fully immune to the virus. They don't get it and don't spread it, likely due to cross-immunity from other coronavirus, which forms part of the common cold. Again, that makes a lot of sense. And Nitrium, again, the more time that passes by, the more we'll find out, the more facts we'll have about the virus. And as they say, hindsight's 20/20. And I think that's, and here's my hope and prayer. I hope everyone that's angry, frustrated, and pissed off right now does not forget. Because once we actually start getting more hard data like that coming out, and if we find out that certain actions that were done were completely unnecessary and were driven by political motivation, etc., I hope we hold those people accountable. Most especially, I hope that we never forget that China is the place where this originated. There's at least a chance it was formed in a lab in that country. And even if none of that is true, because again, research still needs to be done, investigations need to happen, what we do know is that the World Health Organization bought the lie that China gave to the people of the world when they said, back in November, October, don't worry about it, it can't be spread person to person. So it's amazing to me that you have celebrities and politicians that are trying to put all the blame on Trump and say he's the reason why it affected us. I think the governor of New York said New York would have been fine if Trump had done his job. No, let's talk about who the real people to blame are, and that's the WHO for being a pawn of China and saying, well, China says it can't be spread. We're going to believe it and spread the lies. And of course, China for lying, as they normally do, because they're commies. And commies cannot be trusted. It's very, very simple, actually. Commies can't be trusted. Tina B, but there's nothing this year to nominate for the Ravens. Best Picture nominees? Okay, I guess if we dig hard enough, we'll find something. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be films. There's going to be films out there that I've probably seen and aren't even thinking of right now, to be honest. It happens. Cobra Viber 999 says, Whiplash is getting a 4K release scene. I know it is. Very, very tempted to pick it up. Very tempted, but I don't really know what the difference in quality is going to be between that and the Blu-ray, because the Blu-ray is a pretty good transfer. Lord Toast says, good times. Very nice. Thank you, Lord Toth, for being here and for being a man of a few words. It helps. Anyway, the chat has jumped on me, but luckily, things are slowing down, and it should be because we're right about at time. So if anyone in the chat can slow things down, that would be great. We still have 72 people watching. Thank you very much. Smash that like button if you would be so kind. It would mean a lot. Let me jump over to my D-Live fam, though, and catch up with them. Once again, Captain Dean High, thank you for the 3 ice cream. Adam says, but we need our popcorn. Hey, buddy, all is good here. We do need our popcorn. Peabody says, Baby Thor is going to be fine. He already has 2 cars. This is right. He has the Batmobile and a DeLorean as well, thanks to his Uncle Kaba. Daniel Thorne, Star Wars Dr. Aphra, an audiobook original by Sarah Kuhn, is waiting for you. Is it really? How so? Peabody, yep. Who went from can't spread person to person to asymptomatic super spreaders? Just a slight difference. Yeah, WHO, slight difference. Only a slight difference. Tiny. And that's now me caught up on D-Live. Thank you, D-Live fam, for always being very kind to me, especially as it gets later in the night. Nathan Slay, your opinion on Brokeback Mountain, a very overrated, pretentious mess. 13th Warrior, a major factor for me in predicting a Best Actress winner is, did the actress play a prostitute? Is this valid? I don't have the research on that, so I'm going to say no. But I'm sure you might have something. I don't know. Nathan Slay, what's your favorite Coen Brothers movie? Ooh. I hate when people put me on the spot like that. Let's see. What is the Coen brothers' entire filmography? I need the entire filmography in front of me, otherwise I cannot make an informed decision. I do like Fargo. Big Lebowski's pretty great. True Grit's good. I'm gonna go with the Big Lebowski. Can't go wrong with it. Big Lebowski, final answer. I'm just a dude. They peed on your rug. Tie the room together. Oh, what a great movie. Hypernex 13. If you got to choose a side, would you fight for Uganda Knuckles or Harambe? The great catastrophic battle of our generation. Well, obviously, you know it'd be Uganda Knuckles. Do you know the way, my friend? Do you know the way? Nitrium says, in regard to The Big Bang Theory, the first 1 and 2 seasons were all right, but after that, it became just recycling of the same nerd cliche jokes over and over again. In my opinion, Silicon Valley is a much better show. Yeah, I've heard great things about Silicon Valley, never seen it myself, but here's the thing, is that I like that kind of mindless humor, you know, and it didn't ever really have agendas to it either, and so that's why I was okay with it. And also, I like the characters, and I like the journeys that the characters go on. I could definitely admit that the earlier seasons are better, but it is formulaic. There's no denying it's a very formulaic show, and so even if the jokes do change, the formula stays the same, and so for a lot of people that can get old, and so that's why I respect anyone that is not a fan of it. I personally am. Lord Toth, who's a member, says, Odin, Heimdall, Toth, the gods are out tonight. Damn right. Damn right. Alrighty. Hypernex 13. Wait, Kanye West running for president? Why is he Ronin? Why is he Ronin? Why is he Ronin? I see what you did there. Alice McCarthy, you have to vote Kanye. Ryan Kennel said he's his VP and you're 8 Mile Onin. Well, he's not his VP. That's a lie. Ryan lied. Ryan lied and people died. The K-Man, who's a member. K-Man, what are you doing over there? The K-Man says, just sneaking over here for a minute to say vote for the K-Man as your president of choice. The K-Man, trying to be a writing candidate, I see. Nitrium says, regarding Jordan Peele, he is an executive producer for both Twilight Zone reboot seasons. I can't see what I said before now, but that is what I meant. Regardless, second series is well worth a watch, in my opinion. Yeah, before you said that it was the second season where he became the host and executive producer, so I guess I was worded incorrectly. So he's been the executive producer and host for both seasons, but this season has been better. Well, that's good to hear. Always glad to hear that. Forever Sci-Fi says, WHO didn't buy the lie. They were just bought. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of evidence to suggest that things were not quite on the up and up with them. Lord Toth says, put on some slow jazz. Oh, yeah. Alex McCarthy. Jeremy had shorts on in Drunk's live stream yesterday. He ditched the soy jeans. What? Jeremy has shorts? I don't believe that for a second. Hopefully people got pictures. Got to get some Jorts Jeremy going on in here. Tina B says, a Critical Drinker was doing a live stream with Mahler and Rags and discussing Knives Out. I'm glad I never saw it. The procedural holes alone would have had me punch out Rian Johnson. Yeah, that's why when I saw it, the people were actually a pretty diverse group of people that liked it. There were some Phantom Menace people that liked it, who didn't like it too, right? When I watched it, though, and I'll admit, I was blinded by my disliking of Rian Johnson. I think that he was already pretentious, especially after Last Jedi. And to me, the film just came across as typical Rian Johnson. Again, just very, very pretentious and also predictable for me. I thought the story was more predictable than what was thought. Laura, waiting for Nerdrotic, says, "Oh brother, where art thou? We're in a tight spot." That's also a fantastic film. I would say that's probably one of the more underrated Coen Brothers films. Oh brother, where art thou? I am a man of constant sorrow. I actually love that song. Nathan Slay, great soundtrack to that movie. Nathan Slay says, you like The Big Lebowski? I mean, that's just like your opinion, man. Well, it's a pretty damn good movie. Changed my mind. It's a pretty damn good movie. All right, I think I'm caught up. Cancel Venom says, Jeremy got roasted on Drunk Stream. Good. It's about time he gets put in his place. It's always great when Jeremy gets put in his place. Forever Sci-Fi, were they pre-ripped shorts for cut-off Daisy Dukes that Jeremy was wearing? If his history of clothing choices is to be any sense of context for it, I would say probably yes. George Morales II, welcome to the chat. Glad to see you in there interacting. Alexander says, Trump must be held accountable for his part because in his case, both parties participate, including him, and will never be quelled. Again, everyone has a part to play. No question about it. Daniel Thorne, with China cracking down on Christians this week, does that mean they will start to edit Bibles, which they are the leading producer of? Surprised that they haven't done that yet at this point in time. China's just evil. And by that, of course, I mean the people that run China, not the people. Alexander says, what Trump did with CV will always be remembered and he deserves to be impeached, just not by Democrat. Whoa. Okay, now Alexander, okay. Now you're going off on a little bit of a tangent. I don't really see what he did as an impeachable offense because based on the facts that we have, he found out about the information as he did, and as soon as anything seemed to indicate that it could be a problem, because remember, China lied and told us false information. The WHO, right, international body, bought into that lie as well. We did shut down travel in January. And so we can argue that more could have been done, but imagine anyone in that same position. Remember also that he was also criticized for shutting down travel that early. So I don't understand the whole impeachable. Let's not get into any of that nonsense, dude. That's too much. We could talk about people who could have done more and people taking responsibility, but that is get that out of here. Nitrium, who's a member, says, Rian Johnson is a solid director, but a very bad writer. I'm fine with him directing the other people's scripts. Actually, you know what? I would say that's a fair shout. And the evidence of that would be Breaking Bad. Because there's a couple episodes, I think, of Breaking Bad that he didn't write, directed, and they were good. So, yeah. Tina B says, the things they did, like letting a suspect hold a piece of evidence, would have had me screaming at the screen, but that's what we get with a moron plagiarizing Clue. Yeah, it basically is Clue, just not nearly as clever. Cancel Venom says, that Steven Seagal guy was hilarious. What, Fat Steven Seagal? Fat Steven Seagal is my spirit animal. Lord Toad, China lied, people died. Blake St. Clair, China has been editing movies for years. Now it's just openly mandated. Yep. It's a fair shout. Let's see. Nathan Slay, Tony Stark, I'm planning to shut down the weapon system. Jeff Bridges, I mean, that's just like your opinion, man. Yeah, that's the version that we need for sure. Lord Toad, Canada is so much better off. We're doing okay. Hate to see what is happening to many of our bros down south. Well, Canada, every country, right? This is not just me poking fun at Canada. Every country has its own problems. So even though this might not be one of them, there's problems still. And then Castle Venom says, yes, he was roasting Jeremy all stream. Well, that just makes me happy. And yeah, boom, right there, Lord Toth. It's truth, right? Again, all countries have their own problems. That's just how it goes. All right, I am now caught up with the chat. Thank you all very much for being here this evening. This has been a fun one. Hope you enjoyed the open forum discussion. We went all over the place. Obviously, because COVID is still very much in the mind and the heart, it is going to be the thing that is going to be focused on most of all. But before we wrap things up, I do need to shout out the members of the channel who are at the $5 and up tier. So anyone that is a member of the Army of Asgard or Keeper of the Bifrost level on YouTube gets a shout out at the end of live streams only. And those are Orange Chat Reviews, Bruce, Adam Avery, Latino Slant, Larry, The Bosco 2000, Twirly Wolf, Aiden Vickery, and Jace Doe. Thank you so very much for being members at the Army of Asgard and Keeper of the Bifrost level. If you are a Patreon Subscribe Star member, you, of course, will be included in the end credits. Thank you very much. Hypernex13, do you agree that Osmodeus Breaking Bad episode is the best TV episode of all time? I actually prefer others, but still pretty good. I think Ruin directed that episode too. I don't really have a favorite episode, but there isn't a bad episode of Breaking Bad. I can say that much. Lord Toad says, good times, indeed. Forever Sci-Fi, Canada has a few less people and a lot more open spaces, plus Bigfoot doesn't carry COVID. This is all true. Nitrium was a good chat. Always great to hear other perspectives. Absolutely, Nitrium, and thank you very much for adding to that discussion with some figures. I always like seeing numbers that I can look into. Lord Toad, honorable mention. I was reading your comments. That's honorable enough. Stephanie B, what's going on? Have you been here the whole time? Have you been here the whole time, Stephanie B? I think the chat's just been too crazy. But Stephanie B, my general, I notice you. How's it going? So Stephanie B is my general. Tina B is the Empress of the Universe. And everyone else is just awesome mod over there. But anyway, thank y'all all so very much for being here. Adam, thank you very much. Good job. Thank you so much. Thank you. You did a great job as well. You guys are awesome. I love you with the bottom of my heart. As far as schedule goes, tomorrow morning over on the Welcome to Asgard channel, my second channel, link to that can be found in the description, we will be watching a film, and it is 1992's Unforgiven, starring Clint Eastwood. It's a movie I've never seen before, so please consider joining us 9 a.m. Eastern Time on the Welcome to Asgard channel to watch Unforgiven from the 1990s, and that'll be tomorrow's film. Thursday morning over on Twitch, I will have my Good Morning Asgard podcast, which has always been fun. It's more of a long-form discussion about a wide variety of topics. It's a lot of fun. Not a lot of people over there, and so normally I'm able to spend more time talking and answering those questions, and again, in a more long-form fashion, and not having to rush through various things like I had to tonight, for instance. So that's a lot of fun. Friday, of course, we will have the Friday Night Tight stream over on Gary Nerdrotic's channel. Saturday, we will be having our Saturday night evening stream on this channel, the main channel, Oda's Movie Blog, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So again, the two morning streams, Wednesday and Thursday, are at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Friday Night Tights is going to be around 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the Saturday night stream, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And also this Sunday will be our Chosen of Valhalla stream. Chosen of Valhalla stream will be this Sunday, so an extra stream where my $25 and up backers on Patreon Subscribestar will be in attendance to talk about the movies and shows that they've been watching and have a good time talking about all those different things and catching up with each other, what's been going on the last month, and just having a good time. And it's a lot of fun. And I love it. So Sunday, and that'll be around 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, if that changes, it would be probably 2 p.m. at the latest for a start time. But last time, 1:30 worked pretty well. And so we will definitely keep that onto the radar. And speaking of radar, I was just reminded that we do have cute puppies. So there we go. There's one right there. Yeah, now she's falling back asleep. So you got to catch that moment. She was just passed out, woke up, and sometimes that indeed happens. And then, of course, we've got her still, River, right down there. Again, she's still knocked out, same position. And then, of course, little baby Willow, who is all legs, by the way. Has all legs. But anyway, you guys have all been amazing and beautiful people. The schedule can indeed be found also on the website, ombreviews.home.blog, as well as information about the Preservation Project and everything else. Yeah, that's all I really had to say about that. Marshall Ford, thank you for the diamond donation. I very much appreciate that. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. Albertus Magnus, Animation Commentator, Brian P., David Bobrizik, Dion, DivX, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, The Honker Chonker Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Intertrap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Carney, Kenneth Camille, Lady T, Laura Story, who is the modern Major General, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange at Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Out of Step with Reality, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benton, Tina Bojan, The DJD Show, and Tina B. Thank you all for being my Patreon members, and a huge shout out to my Subscribestar members, Stand For, John B., Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Darkstar 57, Alex McCarthy, or J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888-209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nevedon G. Adams, and ZK-Man, and Father Damien Cook. Thank you all so very much for being my Patreon and Subscribe Star members. Seriously, you are the wind beneath my wings. You help keep the lights on. You help support things like the giveaways for my $5 and up backers, and also allow me to do a lot of the extra stuff for the channel, including the exclusive OMB podcast that I do every couple of weeks with John, the Flick Pick of the Flick Pick channel. And yeah, thank you so much for your support. Don't want to really drag it out too long this month. You guys are amazing and beautiful people. If you want to have a name shout out, if you want to have access to giveaways, podcasts, any of that kind of stuff, check the links in the description for Patreon and Subscribe Star. You guys rock. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.